Joe Rogan came out and let it rip, okay? In the most expected way possible. He came out and he let it rip. Joe Rogan, on his latest episode or whatever, gave a endorsement to RFK Jr., okay? Let's watch.
He's a legitimate guy. You know, before anybody started calling him an anti-vaxxer, which I thought he was too. I thought he was this nut, this like conspiracy theorist nut, until I read his book. I read The Real Anthony.
Bro, you're a conspiracy theorist nut. So, of course, you read his book and you were like, oh, I agree with it. I love when people go, oh, dude, I thought he was a conspiracy theorist. The guy is a conspiracy theorist. And then I read his book about conspiracy theories and I agreed with them because I'm a conspiracy theorist. And I went, oh, my God, everything clicked.
How much of this is real? Because if it's all real, this is insane, and we live in a world where we're being manipulated by these health organizations that are being paid by the pharmaceutical drug interests. And these pharmaceutical drug...
It's so funny that these guys are basically describing capitalism, how it works, but then like still attributing it to like some random evil. This is like at the heart of liberalism. That's why liberalism, which is anti-materialist in terms of like analyzing the world, has a real hard time avoiding, you know, Nazi sentiments and fascist sentiments, because like every single conspiracy theory ultimately leads to an outgroup, and that outgroup of like shadowy figures almost always is considered Jewish, right? That's how so many of these conspiracy theories, whether it's like flat earthers that think like NASA is owned by the Jews, or any number of different conspiracy theories that like probably start off as not very dangerous, almost always needs to find a scapegoat. Okay. The scapegoat can take different forms. You can call them globalists, the elite, shadowy cabal. You can call them Jews, but most of it is just terminology designed to talk about a group of shadowy figures in the outgroup that is like both weak and also simultaneously very powerful. Historically speaking, it's always Jewish people, right? He's an anti-vaxxer simper, anti-vaxxer simp. Oh, hell no, you're a conspiracy theorist too. They are not describing capitalism. You are wrong. That's just copium. Please do not ban this person, mods. I like this one. That's just delusional paranoia. Yes, you're right. He's not describing capitalism. Pharmaceutical corporations, which he will describe in a second, hire like having people that go into the regulatory agencies and what is known as a revolving door, is actually not just in the pharmaceutical industry, it's in every industry. And that in and of itself is a byproduct of existing under a capitalist organization of the economy and ensuring that the regulatory agencies are still doing the bidding of these mega corporations, okay? Sometimes the interests of the omega wealthy actually end up aligning with the interests of the cattle, the regular citizenry, the working class. In the case of vaccines, it does. They want you not to die, okay? Because you're valuable as cattle, you're valuable as workers, okay? So they don't want you to actually die. They don't want you to gum up the works. They don't want you to up the hospital networks. They want you to be able to go back to work 3 days instead of taking 3 weeks off. That's why vaccines are important for everyone. But ultimately, if you care about, you know, mitigating some of the worst consequences of COVID, then yes, you should get vaccinated. So your interests align in that regard. That's precisely why all of these like billionaires and millionaires were getting the vaccine before anybody else. Having said that, however, these nutters still exist. And then they point to like the very valid skepticism exists within big pharma and the revolving door between the regulatory agencies. Pharmacy company want to keep you alive because that's how they make money. Oh my God. But don't you want to stay alive? Like this is exactly what I'm trying to explain to you. And no, you're wrong. Globally speaking, or at least even historically speaking, that is not what has driven pharmaceutical innovation. Even to this day, medical innovation is not simply operated on the profit motive. What turns medicine sour, I would say, what actually holds back innovation in the medical field is literally the profit motive. Dumping a load of money into R&D, but the R&D is not actually finding new ways of using existing medication for different ailments, but instead finding new ways of extending your patent is actually against innovation. It actually harms innovation in the medical field. But most novel chemical compounds are still found in publicly funded research facilities, not by people who want to, you know, make billions of dollars or whatever, but oftentimes just people working to genuinely advance mankind, people working to, you know, make medicine readily available. That's why some of the most important medical innovation in the form of novel chemical compounds and their application in the medical field have come from people who have literally given their patents out for no money whatsoever. Okay, insulin being a phenomenal example of this. I don't know why I'm brought out to the forefront. I agree. Yeah, I mean, he is anti-vax though. Yeah, landlords want to sell you houses, you need shelter, or landlords want you to rent the house from them and you need shelter, so you have no choice. That doesn't mean houses are bad as a concept. Thank you. That is a brilliant analogy, chatter. Thank you so much. I believe that the profit motive should be completely ripped away from medical innovation and the field of pharmaceuticals in general and healthcare in general. Okay. I am a major advocate for free healthcare. Major advocate for free healthcare. I think it's gross. It's disgusting. There's an inelastic demand there regardless. So even from a hyper-capitalist framework, everybody understands. Anyone who's ever taken a microecon or macroecon principles class understands that healthcare has inelastic demand and therefore has to be heavily regulated. What will be the incentive to innovate? What do you mean, brother? What do you mean? I just explained to you that like there is no incentive to innovate in terms of profit right now. Almost all of the novel chemical compounds come from pharmaceutical research happening at publicly funded institutions. Like, you think scientists are only doing science because they want to make money? Like, that's crazy. A lot of this mismatch in this field specifically, the anti-vaxxer, is literally born out of weird juxtaposition of like looking at your medical care professionals and thinking of them as people who are trying to farm you, people who are trying to make money off of you. That is where a lot of the skepticism comes from. And I don't think people understand how dangerous that is for the future of mankind. Okay. It should not be profit driven. The people that actually make out like bandits in the pharmaceutical field, in the field of medicine, are not the actual grad researchers, okay? They're barely making ends meet. I fear that you've never actually met someone who is a PhD, who is actually a grad student working on this research. So you just in your mind think these are all like homosexual Marxists, but then also simultaneously multimillionaires only working on this kind of stuff specifically for the profit motive, when it is the furthest from the truth. They make maximum $30,000 a year, barely can make ends meet. And the only reason why they're doing it is because they want to advance mankind. They have genuine fascination with whatever they're working on, and they want to also make the world a better place. This is a normal incentive that a lot of human beings have. Okay? The people that are actually making the money are executives that don't actually play a role in the research part at all. They are the ones who then land on the patents and then try to work as best as they can to extend those patents. Use all the money that they make and dump it back into marketing. Use all the money that they make and dump it back into research and development, but not necessarily for novel chemical compound discovery, but instead research and development for new mechanisms of delivery. This is a trick pharmaceutical companies use, Big Pharma uses, to extend the patents that they have. Oh, this was a normal drug that you need, but now you can put it up your... We still maintain another 5-year extension on the patent, so you can't get the generic version. There's a lot of issues here. Proof of your point. Doctors.Borders, medical professionals who could make lots of money, still go out into dangerous areas and give care for free. Exactly. People always talk about how, profit motives, and including Joe Rogan, who doesn't understand it, by the way. Joe Rogan doesn't understand the problem. He's literally talking about like how the systems are so broken fundamentally, but doesn't understand what the reasoning is. So inevitably, you just go back to this, they are doing this attitude. Who is they? Well, Joe Rogan himself might not think it's Jews. I don't think he is. I don't think he believes that. But plenty of people do attribute the they to Jews. But it's not the anti-Semitism in this circumstance that I'm like complaining about. It's the lack of interest in like examining the underlying reasons as to why this structural problem exists. And the structural problem exists because of capitalism, because people have lied for years and years about the profit motive and how that is the only reason why people do.
There's the revolving door between the CDC and the FDA and then these pharmaceutical drug companies. So the people that make the regulations then go on to have these cushy jobs with the pharmaceutical drug corporations. Like, oh, nothing to see here. It's like it's open. It's right out in the open.
Right.
And when he talks about all that stuff in his book, you're just like, what the man? If this wasn't true, he would be sued.
American freedom of speech, unfortunately, in a circumstance like this, fortunately it exists, but unfortunately in circumstances like this one, make it virtually impossible to genuinely be litigious against someone who writes unhinged in a book. He endorsed Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in this video. What I find very funny about this is that he had a bit of a Kyle Rittenhouse moment. He endorsed RFK Jr. and immediately the Republicans were like, oh, what the you. Cat Turd, one of my favorite political commentators in the space, probably the GOAT, the greatest of all time to do it, the greatest white boy to ever do it, came out and was talking about how Joe Rogan is gay. Like literally, immediately. It's like that. They have one defense. Cat Turd, the left crying about Joe Rogan 24/7 is making him 1,000 times more popular. Dear leftist, ... Joe Rogan can say anything he wants on his podcast, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it but cry. Joe Rogan endorses RFK Jr. So I've never been a Joe Rogan fan. Can't stand him. Yes, he has a popular podcast, but I've always thought he was absolutely politically dumb. He's great at figuring things out 2 years after we do. What a legend. So did it surprise me when he endorsed idiot RFK Jr. today? LOL. No. We are talking about the same idiot who endorsed Bernie Sanders, right? He's the podcast equivalent of a dumb blonde joke. Who has the gayest low IQ dumb male blonde joke political infant podcast in the world? Joe Rogan. Answer A. Answer B. Also Joe Rogan. So that's the beauty of it all. These guys are an insane cult. And they did this to Kyle Rittenhouse the other day as well. If you remember, Kyle Rittenhouse also came out and had a brief moment. It was a blip, basically. Kyle Rittenhouse himself came out and was like, hey, I don't think I'm going to support Donald Trump because Donald Trump is not good at gun laws. Kyle Rittenhouse, for those of you who don't know, is a person who very specifically went to kill people at a BLM protest as a counter protester, an agitator, got away with it as well, legal to do that sort of thing, and was a beloved figure by the right for quite some time. But here's what happened to him the other week. Kyle Rittenhouse said he wasn't going to vote for Trump due to him being bad on the Second Amendment. The MAGA circus went immediately ballistic, called him a traitor, and created a conspiracy that he's actually a trans woman and a part of the globalist Illuminati. Here's the video.
Hi, I'm Kyle Rittenhouse, Outreach Director for Texas Gun Rights. A lot of people are upset that I said I'm going to be writing in Ron Paul for President of the United States. And that is true. I will be writing in Ron Paul. Unfortunately, Donald Trump had bad advisors making him bad on the Second Amendment, and that is my issue. If you cannot be completely uncompromisable on the Second Amendment, I will not vote for you, and I will write somebody else in. We need champions for the Second Amendment, or our rights will be eaten away and eroded each day. I support my decision, and I have no takebacks.
That was wrong. He did have a take back. So after like 24 hours of every Republican immediately doing this to him, he did take it back. It's all a psyop, says Isaac's Army. He's a she. Q told us symbolism will be their downfall. Q told us infiltration instead of invasion. They literally started saying he was actually a woman and also gay and also a Freemason and also Illuminati and possibly Jewish. So then he turned around and said, over the past 12 hours, I've had a series of productive conversations with members of the Trump's team, and I'm confident he will be the strong ally gun owners need to defend our Second Amendment rights. My comments made last night were ill-informed and unproductive. I'm 100% behind Donald Trump and encourage every gun owner to join me in helping send him back to the White House. They are out of control. The Republicans are so insane at this point that they immediately go, oh, you don't want Trump? You must be a gay trans person, a gay trans woman who is actually secretly a woman. Here's another version of events as well. Biological female. This is a female. Female shoulder to hip ratio. Female Q angle. No space. Kyle Rittenhouse female skeletal markers. Oval female skull. Small ear. Slopping jaw. Like, I'm telling you right now, if the number of people who operate like this continues to grow, it's over. I mean, it's already over. The American Project is done, okay? We have been running on fumes, okay? This is not bait. I'm telling you, back in the day, there only used to be people like this who would be screaming at you on top of a soapbox outside of a subway station. Now those guys are on Twitter, and others like them are also on Twitter going, wait a minute, this guy's right, okay? We are slowly growing the number of people who are giving themselves schizophrenia. They did this to Andrew Tate as well. Beloved figures on the right, the moment that they sidestep from whatever like the prevailing right-wing narrative is, the moment that they sidestep, they're like, oh, you're a woman. You're actually a woman. You're a trans woman and you are gay and also a woman. They're now transvestigating Andrew Tate. I guess she forgot to wear her fake penis. I told everyone about this a while back. It's all of them. If they are on stage, they are a part of the inverted show. He/she blocked me for calling him/her a transformer. Those sloping shoulders, and her sister is even worse with those huge hips. It's so obvious. Cock watching. I'm I'm telling you, we went from pocket watching to cock watch. Oh, it's so good. And the Republicans lost their minds over Joe Rogan as well. Alongside the rest of the Republicans, the reason why I did the sidestep away from the Kyle Rittenhouse phenomena is because they got one speed. Immediately, they pounce, right? Joe Rogan was forced to basically make a statement, okay? Because they built this audience. It's filled to the brim with dumb hogs, and they just kind of are audience captured in that regard. They're just audience captured in that regard. They now are too invested in maintaining this grift, or rather, they believe some of the statements that they're making, but maybe not all of it. But because their audience is so massively right-wing, because they've pandered so much to the hogs that they can't even say, I kind of like RFK Jr. without everybody calling them gay and trans men and secretly biological women or whatever. They did this with Dylan Mulvaney. Remember Dylan Mulvaney? One can. Dylan was on the Bud Light can. Everybody was going crazy for months, for a month actually. They think Dylan Mulvaney was actually a biological woman, assigned female at birth. Then she was transed into being a man. And then she was retransed into being a woman again. You're insane, brother. You have to realize, you've lost your mind. You lost your dang mind, bro. So Joe Rogan, after Donald Trump pounced on him, as well as everybody else, Cat Turd and all these people were so mad at Joe. Trump joins his supporters in attacking Joe Rogan for saying he's an RFK Jr. fan. It will be interesting to see how loudly Joe Rogan gets booed the next time he enters the UFC ring, MAGA 2024. They're eating his ass. So he now turned around and posted a tweet. He said, "For the record, this isn't an endorsement. This is me saying that I like RFK Jr. as a person, and I really appreciate the way he discusses things with civility and intelligence. I think we could use more of that in this world. I also think Trump raising his fist and saying fight after getting shot is one of the most American things of all time. I'm not the guy to get political information from. If you want that from a comic, go to Comic Dave Smith. He actually knows what he's talking about." Hogs were crying about the endorsement. Thanks for clearing this up, because I was literally crying about it. You are not normal. You have lost your mind if you're crying about Joe Rogan endorsing RFK Jr. over Donald Trump. Holy moly. But Joe Rogan wasn't the only person. Okay, so they did this with Joe, because much like Democrats, they're now vote shaming, which I personally love. Keep up the good work. You only do this if you want to lose, okay? Apparently, the neo-Nazi Trump invited to dinner alongside Kanye West has revoked their support. White supremacist and far-right political pundit Nick Fuentes shockingly revoked his support from Trump's campaign early Friday, announcing on social media that he and his allies believe that the presidential bid is headed for a catastrophic loss, okay? Young groypers are posting about how sad they are, but it doesn't end there. Setback for the RFK Jr. campaign. Right-wing YouTuber Tim Pool says he'll vote for him, and RFK thanks him. But now Pool, after facing criticism for Cat Dirt and other prominent MAGA figures for abandoning Trump, says he was just kidding and won't be voting for RFK after all. That was a short-lived haha, I was just kidding moment from Tim Pool, who, is famous for this kind of haha, just kidding moments. He loves the jokes. He's a big jokester. RFK Jr. says, "I'm so grateful to you, Tim, for your confidence in me, but most of all, for your steadfast defense of the Constitution and relentless love for our country." Oof, I really stepped in it this time. Ha ha ha, holy crap, I'm voting for Trump. What the Wait, I thought Tim was a centrist. Yes, I am trolling in response to people attacking Joe Rogan and Kyle Rittenhouse. There's no real argument against voting Trump, but me, some of these diehard MAGAs are destructive as the left is. I love this stuff. Think about if you are a liberal, if you're in this chat, and there's a lot of liberals amongst us right now, because there's a lot of people tuning back into the election, excited about Kamala Harris, reinvested, reinvigorated. Remember how funny it is when Cat Turd starts yelling about Joe Rogan for his endorsement of not Trump. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't be like the MAGA cultists. This is why we say you look like the MAGA cultists. You look like Blue Anon. You look like Blue MAGA. I want Trump to win. You will not turn things around by denying reality or insulting moderates. Drop your egos. It's so funny. Dude, no, they're like, are we trusting polls now? I love that. Yes, yes. No, you're right. You shouldn't trust the polls. Trump is doing great. I'm going to be honest with you. MAGA influencers need to chill out and stop acting like losers. You're not helping anything. In fact, you're actively hurting Trump. Joe Rogan is a celebrity. Suddenly, we're supposed to care about celebrity opinions. The internet is not real life. Sign off and harvest a ballot. I love that they are doing this. It's like, bro, you can't say MAGA influencers chill out and stop acting like losers when you look like this, okay? When you are the quarter pounder, they're in a dire situation and they recognize it. And why? Why are they in a dire situation? Because the Democratic Party, for the first time ever in a sequence of W after W, has actually responded to the pressure because it happened to be a perfect planet aligned moment. The donors, the voters, and Nancy Pelosi, most importantly, were all in agreement that Biden needs to get swapped out of the ticket. So they responded to that pressure and they did it. Then they followed along with that additional pressure and made another good move. They made Tim Walz the VP, basically locking them down on progressive policies, making bold, declarative, out and about progressive policies your mainstay, your actual platform. All the while, notice how Republicans have no response to that because they are not used to running against a good strategy. Do you understand? Republicans are not used to running against actual good strategy. They don't know how to do it. They've never done it. They don't know what to do. They're flailing.